Oi, 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 and good morning, at least on my side. Today, I will be doing a session alone. No Manuel today. No. Because I want to show you how to do a pull request review. Now, Manu already made the pull request to me after I was nagging him for an hour the last time. Um, so that's what it's about. And in professional environments, happens all the time. I mean, this is daily business, PRs. And I remember when in the beginning for me, getting into it is a bit, you always have this emotional barrier because you don't know the rules of the game and stuff. So I had work environments where people worked on the same branch all the time, had merge conflicts, which is also okay for certain use cases, but if you do it really professionally, nope. Then let's head right into it. So this is the repository from Manuel, where the exercise was uploaded from him. And here is the pull requests. You can just go on the pull requests tab and then go here. The pull request is super simple to set up. You just create your own branch. And then you can click on new PR and say it's gonna merge automatically into main afterwards. Then you're ready to go. Really cool thing. What I love already is this convention here, which she chose. Usually what you do is branches have a bit of a convention when you do PRs and that stuff all the time. If a new feature comes in, it's usually feature / or if you don't know what to do. For bug fixes, it's bug fix / and of course there's also refactor. There are more fine-grained parts of Git flow, which we will discuss in a later lesson like CI for continuous integration, like action pipelines and stuff like that. So remember, if you do a branch in the sense of a bigger project, choose this naming convention, and you'll be fine. Usually also what happens is people include the ticket number if you have an issue in the branch name itself to give it a little bit of unique flavor. Because imagine people call their branch bug fix input or something, that could happen 10 times. So it's nicer to have the issue number in here, gives it a uniqueness, and at the same time, it's just generally better in the feeling. One thing which he confused is actually I'm the reviewer, not the assignee. We will correct that here. You can assign it labels. I like to do this. Some of my colleagues don't. We have a Jira tracker where stuff is labeled anyway. Okay, really nice thing. Always provide a quick input about what has been done and what was the intention. So this is really helpful for the reviewer because you will do a lot of different stuff. And it really, really helps if he just knows general intentions you had, like 2 or 3 big things you changed and it just is scattered across the code base. Okay, so he changed to functions. We will see that in a second. API key as end variable with user input. Okay, that's interesting. We'll see. User input moved to top level hierarchy. That's good. New loading from API and caching if data is older than 1 day or file is non-existing. Okay, language and readme improvements. JSON output for min and max. Okay. So this looks all like a lot of changes, a lot of small stuff. We will see. Also nice, you see a little bit the commit history. Sometimes it helps a bit if people follow the commit conventions that they do little changes and then do a commit, then you can read this better. I don't always do this myself. So sometimes you just also do the cherry picking from another branch and then you just have one commit in the PR called add changes or something. There's a lot of it. Okay. So this repo hasn't set it up, but usually what you set up is that you want at least one reviewer. You should not go for more if you want to move fast as a team. One is usually already enough. Just for second opinions or stuff which involves really multiple people, you should consult multiple people. Okay, now to step in, you go to this files changed. Really nice to see we have 177 additions and 83 deletions. Be aware, it should not be more than 200 usually. It depends on teams. Some say 150, some go higher. I also had PRs recently which had 500. For certain things you cannot do it differently. What's important is just if it's more than 200 and you have the feeling, you have the feeling it might be a little bit too much for the person, grab them. You give them the review here and then you say, hey, if you need any help reviewing this, just drop me a note and we do it together. And this speeds up review time a lot, really, really a lot. This is the only way to really tackle big PRs in a timely fashion. Yeah. Another thing when you do a PR is there are two ways to view the whole thing. There's a split view where you have kind of both next to each other. So this is old, this is new. And you have the combined view. Usually I use the split view by default. But yeah, the unified is more when I have longer stuff in one. For this one, I believe unified is a bit better because then you have these blocks here. You can just ignore the red stuff on and so forth. Okay. So what I will not do with you is go through this here in detail. I will do this afterwards, the text reading, because yeah, that's pretty boring for you. What I want to do with you is do a little bit of code review. So, okay, he wrote something in the README. He removed the old file and has a new file here. So this was the file for the API key where he was putting it in. I'm happy about that because it's, yeah, like such a custom file, usually you don't put the key in that. At least not in the same directory. I told him that in the last session. Okay, so imports changed a little bit. Yeah, he used requests instead of URL-lib. Also, I quickly change my language on the keyboard. Also, I'm really happy about this because this will make it for him also a little bit easier that he went for requests now compared to URL-lib. So if you feel like you like something, just drop it, like express yourself, you know. It's not sterile working stuff what you do there. It's actually, you know, really communicating with a person, and communicating involves so much more than, yeah, giving rational arguments. By the way, this morning I'm drinking oolong, Thie Guan Yin. Very typical oolong. I will maybe tell you later a bit more about it. I missed that in the beginning. Oi, oi, oi. Manu will not forgive me this one, like no matter what comes out of this review. But no tea introduction. Aye. We are getting naughty here. That's when society crumbles, when you don't stick to the good dogma of introducing good tea. Aye. We need to educate you all a bit in that sense, you know. So here we go. He's changed the function signature here from a class to a function rather. Perfect. He used the API key as input. That's good. Yeah. Usually what you do in the beginning of the program, you get all the stuff together, environment variables and whatsoever, and keys, and you just give it inside. and reach it through the call stack, through the function signatures here. Makes testing a lot easier. Then you have location coordinates here. Okay, and it returns nothing. I'm curious if it will really return nothing. Then he changed here a bit the parameters, how I wrote them. That's okay. Here's the first one. I just caught with my tired morning eyes. Here's a double point. That's definitely not the right syntax. Now don't say you're wrong or something, but always do a suggestion. Now there's something really cool here. So in terms of suggestion, I mean, ask them like, what do you think about, not just say you missed something or so. If sometimes I do that too, but yeah, just do it like better more like this. Now there is this cool symbol here which is called add suggestion, and what it does is it will pull in the line in this box, and kind of the person later can then simply add your changes if they like it. Okay, it's a little bit dangerous because it can break the CI/CD pipeline or linting. It might be wrong, but okay. So we do the suggestion here. We kind of here replace this. I'm sure he did that on purpose now. Like, he always plays with me, he never says it, but yeah, he's like that. Okay, so we click also on start review, because otherwise the other person gets a message every time you make a comment, but if you start a review, they get in the end like one bulk notification where they are notified. And this looks really neat. So you see here my text, and then he sees what I modified. Super, right? This makes it so much better in terms of all of this. So what's really odd is this returns none, because either this is not the right string, not the right format. The format is not right here. Because if it doesn't return anything, you also don't need returns and stuff like this. It does really return nothing. If it returns nothing, we can skip it. And then here you see also, I don't just tell him what to do. I always want him to reflect on it. Okay. And this is, yeah, how you do it, don't just push on people. You cannot force them to do anything. No one, you cannot force anyone to do anything in life, all you can do is to give them suggestions, and whether they accept it or not is up to them. And yeah, we add the suggestion again to delete it simply. Okay, then we go further. Okay, the code looks bit too bulky to me. Like, just go over it and see how you feel. And I feel very scared a bit. Not very scared. What I saw before was way more horrible than this. So let's see. He's using the request module to make the call. He uses the API key as a parameter. Okay, that's interesting, actually. Also, this definitely doesn't belong here. That should usually be added automatically. So what I mean is, this question mark indicates when you have a parameter in the URL above, but usually it's added automatically by the libraries. So I believe the parameter indicator question mark is not needed. Also here, if you're uncertain about stuff like this, here I'm pretty certain, but if you're uncertain, test it yourself. You're a code reviewer. That also means not only looking at the code, but also running it if there's doubt. And going into these topics to make sure that things function the way it functions. Sometimes we discuss about error handling in a library. And in the end, what would have solved this is going into that external library source code and actually just checking what it really does. You know, is this return nil or a null pointer for some libraries we have when an error comes, or is it, do I need to clean up, you know, something? Typical topics. Okay, but so far it looks pretty good what he did. Now, this is the place where he caches the data. In the current working directory, I had that before. He could use a cache directory. I recommended to him the Edge XDG. My English brain is not awake yet. But he hasn't implemented it yet. This is where, if people forget something, or maybe he's not too familiar with it, the concept and stuff, I have the feeling here at least, because I told him about it and he didn't do it, so there must be something, right? So I just asked him if he would like to maybe do this together, you know. Would you like to try the caching according to XDG together? Drop me a note. Perfect. So that's what I have in my feeling. So let's continue. Then fetch data from URL false. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. If the cached file is not there, he just sets this Boolean. And otherwise, I think he will try a lot of stuff. And if it doesn't work, yeah, then he really needs to fetch it. It's still an odd control flow. I don't know. Usually having too much going to the right in indentation is not good. Which told me a friend which loves Rust. And I always wonder if he's catatonic when he's programming Rust, because Rust is going to the right. Like, so fast all the time with these match statements and stuff. Like, then you get a PR where you are 2-level indentations to the right and he's having a heart attack already. Yeah, it's super. I love that. So much character in some persons. Just so good. Okay. He tries to open the file. Also note here, he opens the file, but just because it's there doesn't mean he can open it. So there is no error handling here. I would still accept it, because usually in your own folder and that stuff, like, it would be strange. You're running a program and it creates a cached file. And you couldn't open it, so I won't nag him for that. That's a bit too overshot. So yeah, also note, don't go too crazy about things. Because he could add then a try catch block here to make sure that also the error message later is understandable. But it's okay. I can live with that at the moment. Then he reads in the data, loads it as JSON. Then he extracts. No, he gets now time. He checks the time step from then. Here, one thing, this is in seconds, I guess. Classic. This is a really classic. How about making that magic number a variable with a name? Because this sounds really, I have no clue how much this actually is in seconds, in whatever this is, minutes, days. He said 1 day in the description, so I guess it's 1 day, which would fit because it's 3,600 times 24 would be roughly in that region. So yeah, but magic numbers, give them usually names. You will do people a lot of favors by that. Okay, so if the data is basically young enough, he doesn't fetch, and if it's too old, then he will fetch. wait, my brain. If it's young enough, he doesn't fetch, and if it's older than a day, then he will fetch. Okay, that's fine. So what he will do then is, he gets the data out from the city or what? Okay. Just curious, because this is now a bit... I don't understand. That's exactly a good point where also I get a little bit lost. So here's the threshold. He checks if the location which was entered is different than the location in the data, because then he needs to fetch too. Okay, I see. I mean, he wrote a comment here that really helped me just a second ago. Yeah, if I'm stuttering a lot or something, I'm not a multitasker. I stand to it. I can do one thing at a time. So if I'm also silent, I take that piece. I stand to myself in that sense, that I don't try to force myself in multitasking. Okay. So we're pretty deep in already, halfway through, most probably even further. So yeah. Now what happens is, if the file does not exist or data should be fetched, I guess he runs the request. No, he uses the response. Okay, this is actually pretty confusing. Why? Because he does the request way up. Way up. Like, he does it basically here in the beginning. And this makes no sense, because you just want to run the request when you need to run it. So first of all, putting it up is not good, and then having a big check block in between. And second, of course, is if you run the request anyway, it's just don't use the response. That's, pretty useless. Yeah, we just drop him a note here. How about moving the request here so that it won't get executed all the time? It is a bit lonely up there. So always use a bit emotions. It's the best. No, we need to bring the family together. This poor statement up there wants to belong here. I already feel that. So once he has the data, he just dumps it here, and that's okay. He also indents it. One thing I really appreciate from him already is this one here. He prints out information for the user, but he does it to standard error, like I recommended to him. And yeah, I really appreciate that. Printing to standard error. By default, most people will not do this. Like I said, usually you have a logger taking care of this, but these little details, I told him about it, so he learns it now. Really cool. Okay. So this is the conditional, and if it doesn't fetch the file, he just loads the data again. Didn't he load it somewhere up here? Yeah, he already loaded it here. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I can ask him. Maybe find a way to load the data only once. Up. You did it conditionally already. You could use as type something called, you could do it union, maybe like this. Oh no, it's an optional, sorry. Yeah, it's the same optional dict or dictionary. Because then the type hinting will know that it could be none. If it's not loaded yet, then you could just make a check. If none, wait a second. Basically set it none, and if it is none, then fetch it. But it should not happen generally under such circumstances. There's definitely a bit, I will grab him, I guess, later anyway, so this is one of the topics. We can discuss this maybe quickly. And I know grabbing people for such little stuff is can annoy them depending on the work they have. So I put an angel here. And I know I'm a bit naughty wanting to talk about such a little meaningless thing, you know. Yeah. But okay. Then he goes in, goes into the data. He expected to have already this format. Okay, I accept that. Yeah, fishes out max and min temperature and prints it out. He prints out the temperatures. Okay, just normally with this one here. Okay, two things. The first thing is he announces it with standard error. So this is a user message, correct. Then what he does is he assembles a big dictionary in which he puts these two values, and then he outputs them to standard out. And this is beautiful, because if I use a shell and I have my logging output from this program, I can pipe this JSON payload itself. Because the thing is, if you have a message like temperature in front and underneath you have a JSON payload you would like to use, then I first need to remove from my output this temperatures heading and user messages, which is super annoying. But he did that already to me by saying, okay, if you just pipe this out here, then you already won. So this is super. This is exactly how it's supposed to be. Yeah, give people let them know if they did something really good, like you really appreciate what they did there, you know. We have at work a kudos channel where if someone in our team did something you really like or did something really good for the team or stuff, we usually write there a note and drop it and really share that we appreciate what they did and how they chip in. It's really a good practice. Not forcing it. We also have a rant channel, but yeah, it really helps a lot having something like that. Okay, so that was the first function. That's okay. Nothing to say a lot about it. It would be fine anyway in normal circumstances. But you also see I could nag him to eternity about stuff like this. And at work, you never want it perfect. It's just seriously not worth it. It's impossible to get it perfect anyway. You know, you also want to move as a team and or as a code base and a project. And if you start nagging these down, I had worked with people who did that. You will get nothing done, nothing ever. You need to accept a certain amount of not optimality in life. That's how it is. You will never be able to deliver something perfect. And once you can live and accept that, and you understand how much acceptance that is also in terms of bad code and stuff, that's fine. Never forget that this code here, even if we would ship it, if it's not really broken, it works, it's just not beautifully written, that's not a problem. If it has no severe performance impact or whatsoever, and even if it has, you can accept it to a certain amount until it becomes a problem. Because we had a lot of discussions about this is not fast enough using a loop. But don't nag people about that if it's really meaningless. If you didn't run a benchmark and you know that it's not the bottleneck, So yeah, we go in this one too. I already see, please provide a space. I will do another angel here. I really like a little bit of space between these things. Okay, so what does he return? He returns a tuple. That's good. The city, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. Okay, the rest looks good. Well done, Manu. There again. I spotted something. The double point is wants to be a comma. I will not do a suggestion here because I'm lazy and I did it above already. Okay, no laziness. I'm the reviewer. I also need to work. Here you see sometimes we need to grab ourselves and do the job right and not let our ego win, which also I am, of course, having and working with every day. Okay, perfect. Okay. Now the deleted stuff, I am not really interested in that. Usually I skip this when it's such big changes. What I also like sometimes is just look at the source file itself, because otherwise you cannot put it together in your head. Yeah. I'm also not magical in that, so yeah. What he does is he gets a geolocation. Okay. If location is none, he prints out a message and he tries it again recursively, which is so sick. Recursive Manu Inc. This is so good that he does that, because it does the job so well, but it's not like anything I would do intuitively or something. Really good. So yeah, and then he returns it. Super. So much nicer, compact, and no big fancy shenanigans or whatsoever. So last he has a get API key function, which returns a string. So the signature looks already right. Now this one checks if the API key is set as an invariant variable. If not, use the. Okay, this is a bit odd. We will get to that in a second. Okay, interesting. So what he does is he not only checks the environment variable if there's a key present, but if it's not present, he actually asks to input it, which is good practice. Because if you put in, let me spawn up a shell. If you put in here, for example, a command like, yeah, this one, minus password, ABC. Then this ABC is in my shell history, so everyone getting into my environment is such as my user can go into my shell history and he would find this password in my history. So a lot of programs, they disallow this and they say, okay, you need to run this command first, and something pops up like a password, and then it's typed in by you or piped into the command, and this ensures that the password is then not in the shell history. Okay. I still don't like it. My biggest favorite is just environment variables. It's simple because you don't have additional logic and conditionally input or not, which can also be annoying in automation. Yeah, just environment variables, they're invisible, they're behind, and if they are not set, you can punch someone in the face with a nice error message. It's very clear, very concise, simple to implement and stuff. Okay, so I won't go into this here, but there's for parameters you have these separators. You need them too for returns, but I will do that later, not to bore you. Now what he does is .env file is gleich okay, this is good. This is good. You can, like I said last time, you can create a file. My apologies. My setup just got crashed. You can create a file .env, and in this file you basically put in environment variables, and a lot of programs, also your code editor, Visual Studio Code, if you use it like me, loads this file, and you have these available in the programs. What he does is he does something very similar. So he also has this package .env, I guess, which does the same, and he loads the environment variables. And then he checks if the environment variable is not in the if the key is not an environment variable. Okay, and asks to put it in. What just confuses me is he puts it again into environment variable. All you would like to do is just return it as a string. Okay, that would be much easier. Now, because he basically just puts it in here into the environment variable, then he fishes it out again, which is just so odd. I don't know what's going on there. I will figure this out in a second. I would do this differently. I would do a nice error and quit the program. Okay. So then he does this check here. That's okay. Okay. And then in the end, he's even so nice. Oh wow! To set in a .env file the key if you typed it in. It's a bit unorthodox how he did it, but it does the job, and he does some nice things like this. That is very kind of you. And I think this library is great in such a sense that if the user already has it, that .env file, then he doesn't need to worry about it anymore, that he would overwrite some other settings and stuff. Really cool. No custom logic, use a library. That's totally fine in that case. Yeah, here we drop a note. That is a bit odd logic. You could just set it above and quit the program if... Now we cannot really quit the program. I just thought a bit about it, if we could quit the program and not set it in between as an environment. Okay. I think this one is the right. Who knows? Okay. And then in the end, he checks it. And here he does the recursive Manu inc. This is so funny. I never saw anyone doing this so motivated today. Yeah, okay. So he just wants to really make sure if the user types it in that he can be as certain as he wants could be that it's the right key. Okay. A bit unorthodox, but I leave it. That's totally fine how he did it. I have no problem with that. So here's the main program finally. He gets the city from the user input. He prints out a statement that's really nice actually. Doing that here, so at least we have something if the program crashes. Gets the API keys, fetches that. Fetches the weather data. Perfect. And here he has a main function call. Super. This is exactly as it should be. Thanks for the requirements. So he even added a requirements file, geopy request python.env. Important. Let's check if he's really using what he's supposed to use. Where is it? Here. JSON.env requests. Yeah, no, geopy. Okay. No, it looks fine. Okay. So this is the program, and he did fine. I would accept that usually. This is all good. Would hit usually now what you can do is you go to this top right and you can do two things. You can do just leave a comment, as usually when I'm not the reviewer and I just want to comment on something or so. You can approve. I usually do that when also little stuff is wrong. I just then write, please consider the changes I wrote, but otherwise I like it, So it's up to the person to incorporate your feedback. Never forget that. You cannot force anyone to do anything. It just doesn't work that way. And the last one, which is a bit tricky, is request changes if you really dislike something and you would have at least a discussion before or have those things corrected if you're certain about them. Why is this so important? Usually people tend to do approve too easily, which is not good. Because if you really are bugged by stuff, stay to your feelings, express them directly. Don't do the approve and in the end be annoyed by it or something. Request changes, we realized it has a bit of a meanfulness. It feels like it in the first moment because you will get a red cross and stuff like this and you're like, geez, no, it got rejected again. But both I myself, because I need to tell myself always, this is not mean. This is actually just what you care about, and you care about them and their work. And that's also the same as an approve. Okay, so look always when you do stuff a bit during work inside your emotions, how you react to things, and filter out what's your ego and what's behind it actually. Because grabbing a friend and telling them something's not the way it's supposed to be is actually very appreciative of them, even though it seems the opposite for some people in some situations. So we will, of course, in this case, we'll do a request changes. No, I will do an approve, because also without XDG it would be fine. But I will ask him if he wants to do the XGD. Thanks for the additional work. Was a bit much for such a script. Yeah, like I said, don't nag people for unimportant stuff too much. It's just not worth it. We all need to get stuff done, so it doesn't matter so much for unimportant things. If you want, we can take a look at XDG together. And that's something I wouldn't do for a lot of people, but he will get a kissing smiley from me. So he knows I'm reaching out to that topic because I think it might benefit him. Okay, perfect. So this was the code review. This is how it works. Now what Manu sees here is basically, yeah, you see two things. This comment above here is standalone. It was not as a review comment. So this is what I meant. You have these then standalone, a lot of them. And here's then the review now. And you have all stuff underneath, really nice. And if he wants now to do the review, he just needs to go through these comments here, and that's it. So two things for the suggestions, he can already take them over if he wants to, really cool. He can also resolve them. So by clicking this, they are gone. Maybe I do it here. And then they are gone, and that's how you work through them. So pretty easy. Yeah. And then in the end, when he's happy about it, he can merge the pull request, and then that's it. There is a little bit more to it. He can also do it here from the Files Changes tabs, of course, if he likes to. Here's all my comments. But yeah, he doesn't have to, whatever you like. There are no rules anyway. Currently, we have no checks running. Checks are pipeline checks like code quality and stuff. We haven't done that here. That's a later lesson. But usually what would happen here is also these checks would run first, and you could not merge if you set it up in that way without all the checks succeeding. Okay, really good to ensure that sometimes you take these suggestions and then you figure out that it breaks the code. You're like, no, okay. Yeah, and it happens to everyone. So better be safe than sorry. Another thing about merging is, I don't know how much you all are familiar with Git. Git has such a deep level of knowledge. Really mastering Git is very difficult. So you can merge in different ways. You can do a rebase. Maybe I will do a quick video once about this, what this does, the rebase versus the merge. But merge is basically just two things coming together, and if you have collisions, like two people editing the same part of the same file, you need to say, okay, who's right or wrong, or you need to combine both. Most of the time we do the merge commit, or I like to do it personally. What you can also do is do a squash. A squash is basically all the stuff, all the commits which happened in this PR are put into one. So all of these individual ones are put together. And then you kind of have a more nicer history, because now if I just merge this, all these little steps in between will also be merged, and I could go to any point of these in time. But you see, sometimes these commits are just editing 2 lines and stuff. And if people don't do commits very thoroughly, as many of us don't do in business life, you can just say, okay, in this PR, you can do whatever nonsense you like with the commits. You can commit 50, 100 times. You can do whatever, do odd commits. Don't stick to the commit message scheming and whatsoever. In the end, just squash it and then don't care about it. Write one nice commit message with the changes and whatsoever, and you're fine. Okay, so this is squashing. I like to do that more actually privately, but at work we do the merge commit. So that we have all the entire Git history in case something breaks. We can check out which commit was it. Also, the rebase is basically you just take your changes which happened from your starting point and apply them to the other branch. But like I said, I think it needs a little bit of visuals to understand that. Okay, pew pew. So Manu did well. I'm really happy with his work. And yeah, I hope also you learned a lot here about PRs, how it works, a little bit the nitpicks and everything. It's really super simple. You cannot do anything wrong. I think that's really hard. Maybe being unfriendly or whatsoever. There's a lot of that stuff, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's how it's in life anyway. Try it out. Grab a friend if you do the tutorials here, or if you do this together with someone, or drop a note in our Discord channel, which should be below in the description. and simply ask if someone can do a review on your PR. You know, do a kind of, if you do these, write this task or script, do a PR for someone. Will be great. And you can do the same for them. You can review it, and both of you can actually benefit from trying it out. If you already committed the code without a PR, simply restart a new. Doesn't matter. You know, just reset the code base quickly or create it anew and then do a PR and exercise it. It's really fun doing stuff like this. And like I said, enjoy it, you know, express yourself. Don't try to do bureaucracy or something. Just go in there, have fun. Drop emojis, links, whatever you like, you know, stick to the topic, but you know, the life is so much fun if you can just, you know, bring character and life into the things you do. Really nice. So last but not least, quickly the tea. I still need to do this. This is how it looks like at the moment. I used a bit much. That's the tea guanyin. Spilled a bit, but that's no problem. Oolong is not green tea. It looks like green tea actually, but this is the leaf, but it's slightly fermented. Usually what you have is green tea, or tea is always the same. Not the same, because there are different regions where it gets different flavors, but the plant is the same, Camellia sinensis. And usually what's just one of the major differences is the processing basically, and one big part of the processing is the fermentation. And green tea is unfermented, that's pure. Also has a bit the problem though, if you leave it too long, it gets bitter. And oolong is just slightly fermented. Sometimes they leave it in the sun, there are other methods. This one really, like I said, it's not a lot fermented because it's slightly yellow. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera well, but it's just a tiny bit, and that means it's not much fermented, just a few percent. What it does is that the bitterness is gone. I had a big crush on oolong in the beginning when I had my tea. I think my first big crush was oolong, because you just cannot screw it up. Because even if you let it in the water for way too long, it doesn't get bitter like green tea. And it has a very rich, if you take the certain oolongs, it has a rich taste. It's really like fully unfolding, whereas green tea is more gentle and soothing, and it can have its moods too, I must say. But yeah, oolong is such a good beginner tea, which I also liked back then, because you cannot screw it up. It has a great taste, comes in a lot of varieties. Super to enjoy, you know. Just this morning I had a nice session where I was sitting down for half an hour and just drinking tea. It's just makes your day so much better, you know. It brings you into the moment, and you appreciate, you know, what you have much more and all. Just a simple cup of tea, it's so beautiful. Okay, then pew pew. I wish you all a good day. Exercise your PRs, drop notes, and see you soon, hopefully, again.